It's very important for everybody to remember, every time you consciously work with your unconscious in these types of practices, or witnessing your mind without getting entangled in it and seeing, oh, wow, I have a real tendency to be afraid of this or afraid of that, or you're actually growing the sphere of your conscious awareness and your conscious mind. And the unconscious is not only becoming illuminated, think of the unconscious as the dark, but the bigger your light is, the further you can see into the darkness of yourself, and therefore the less, unpleasant surprises we get, right? Because we see tendencies, we see probabilities. If there's a probability to hang on to the past too much, we can see that by doing that, we just keep recreating it in the present. So we can't really flow with the Tao anymore, because now we're like a rock in the river, just creating, resistance to the flow of the Tao. So through this is actually one of the main reasons for Jung focusing so much on individuation, because individuation doesn't just mean to become an adult in a cultural sense, but also a spiritual sense. Individuation means to merge the ego with the unconscious so that the ego is much more porous to the great depth, wisdom, and power of the unconscious mind. So that's something that very few people are aware of. And, I know countless people, I've worked with countless people that have been meditating for years and years, 20 years or more, going to meditation groups, but they're not taught how to do anything but sit there and witness their mind, or shut their mind off, or do some breathing technique, or count mala beads or whatever. But none of that's enhancing or growing your sphere of consciousness and teaching you how to work with the depth and the power of the unconscious mind. And I can tell you for sure that, I've worked with many people that have been very committed to their meditation practice, but they still have all the hang-ups and problems that the average person does. Because if you just sit there and look at shit, but you don't do anything about it, or you don't know how it is that you keep recreating all this stuff, then really meditation just becomes sitting on a cushion for an hour a day, and it's, the benefits stop. You get some benefits, but it stops there. We can deepen the well of our consciousness. And in a lot of tarot 12 cards, hangman cards, in other systems of tarot, you'll see something different. What you'll see is that the hangman is hung between two posts, not off that T-type cross. And the symbology of that is that the hangman is hung over a well, which leads to the abyss. The abyss represents the depth of the unconscious, which is infinite. It's literally infinite. Remember, the unconscious mind symbolically represents the creative intelligence of all that God has created. The superconscious mind is God's potential to create novelty. Now, to put this in perspective, your subconscious mind is the wisdom of the cells of your body. So if we said, well, geez, how much wisdom is there in the cells of our body? Well, it took, let's say, 4.9 billion years of evolution to create a human body. So if you were to go looking for a Tai Chi master to work with, or a Qigong master, and when you met Master so-and-so, say when I went to go meet Master Fong Hoff, I said, how long you been doing Tai Chi? And he said 4.9 billion years. I'd say, holy fuck. You got a lot of experience. I think I'll stay with you, right? So now when you say, how much wisdom is there in all the relationships within this infinite sphere of God that have been going on eternally? The wisdom that makes planets, stars, moons, people, and sentient beings of every type you can imagine, from frogs and turtles to aliens. Like, that's how freaking powerful the unconscious mind is. So once God develops a habit, like what is a habit in the mind of God? Well, there's a simple word for it. It's an archetype. When you're dealing with the hangman, you're dealing with a habit in the mind of God. So when you merge with the hangman archetype, do you realize you're dealing with the consciousness of every single experience of anyone in that archetype for positive or negative reasons? Like, most people are so uneducated on these very important things that if they really knew what Jung was talking about and what many mystics talk about, their whole approach to spiritual development would be radically different. Because here we are running around upgrading our phones and our computers all the time, and people get all excited, oh, the iPhone 16 or whatever the fuck's out, and it's got a better camera, and you can make yourself look cool with this Photoshop program. And I'm like, if you guys had any fucking idea, there will never, ever be an iPhone, an AI, or a computer technology even close to the power that sits right fucking inside you 24 hours a day. Right? Like, it's like, we don't want to get lost in all these externalizations of technology at the expense of the fucking incredible technology inside of us and around us, really. One thing you talked about the self and the collective unconscious. I want to point something out to you and everybody else. This is a Klein bottle. There's the entry port, and it fills the bottle. But if you want to pour it out, you got to pour it out the same hole. But the point of it is this is a one surface object. So why am I showing you the Klein bottle? Because I'm teaching you the difference between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. Your personal unconscious is what's inside that bottle. But the surface that makes you think it's you on the inside is actually the membrane where the collective meets you. So out here is the collective, and in here is. So the only difference between the personal unconscious and the collective is where you orient your consciousness to, and the ego is a firewall to keep you from leaking too far out into the collective, because if you do, well, you can get lost. And that's what schizophrenia is. It's getting, the membrane is too porous, or it gets cracked. And then your consciousness is leaking, or shit pours into you from the collective and overwhelms you. But the point I'm driving at is that the collective unconscious is what makes the bottle. You are a product of the collective. You're a unique, every one of us is a unique expression of the collective. The collective dreams us into existence to fulfill some role in the dharma, drama, saga, love story of God. So the thing to remember is that when we use the word self with a little SELF, we're talking about what's inside the bottle. But when we use self with a capital SELF, we're talking about what the bottle's made of and how it got there in the first place. Why this is important is because whatever you do inside the bottle is affecting the bottle, isn't it? And therefore it's affecting the whole entire collective unconscious. This is why Lao Tzu said, if you want to help the world, help yourself. Because you can't not help the world by helping yourself.